Lots going on in Washington. Of course, a lot going on here in the state of Missouri. We've got a Supreme Court nominee, and our Senator Josh Hawley will meet with her. We've also got discussions about what's happening with COVID relief, and of course, the duck boat bill still appears to be stuck. I'm Brian Houseworth. Senator Hawley joining me this week. Senator, appreciate your time. It sounds like you will meet today with the nominee, Amy Coney Barrett. What can you tell us?
Well, I'm looking forward to the meeting. I'm looking forward to talking about her judicial record, her years on the bench. I'm looking forward to talking about her judicial philosophy, Brian. How's she going to approach reading the law, reading the Constitution? Is she going to be faithful to what the Constitution says, or is she going to be one of these judges who imposes her own views? I don't think she will. I think she's going to be a pro-Constitution judge, but you can bet that we're going to talk about that. We'll also talk about the attacks on her faith. She has suffered an avalanche of incoming fire at her from Democrats and liberals questioning whether she's too Catholic to be on the bench. In her last confirmation hearing, one Democrat senator said she thought she'd be a Catholic judge, as opposed to, I guess, an American judge, as if you can't be both a Catholic and an American. I mean, this is outrageous. It is religious bigotry, and it needs to stop.
Senator, last night I did see bits and pieces of your interview on Fox News, and you actually, you just like you did here, you used the word bigotry when referring to it. Elaborate on that when you talk about bigotry.
You know, when you tell a believing American, a believing Christian, a believing Catholic, anybody of a believing faith, when you tell them that they cannot serve on the Supreme Court of the United States because of their faith, that's bigotry. When you say to them, you're too Catholic, when you say to them, as Democrats have, you're going to be a Catholic judge. Another Democrat senator wondered if Amy Barrett was an Orthodox Catholic. Dianne Feinstein said, the dogma lives loudly within you. The dogma. I mean, referring to her faith as if it's some sort of weird, bizarre thing. I mean, she's a Catholic, for heaven's sakes. There's 65 million Catholics in the United States of America. There's a long history of bigotry towards Catholics in this country by some people. I don't think the Democrats want to perpetuate that any longer. I call on them to stop it now and to stop this attempt at religious bigotry and religious tests.
Just a few moments left. We appreciate your time, Senator. Let's move over to COVID relief. Is there a chance that a bill can pass soon? I know we've talked about this before. And would it include checks like we saw earlier this year, the $1,200 checks?
I sure hope, Brian, that we can get something done, and that's why I continue to put forward relief proposals. I propose something now for working families with kids at home. I think every parent who's got a kid at home because of distance learning or other COVID issues ought to be able to get their expenses for that distance learning covered. I also think they ought to get help in replacing lost wages. You know, if they're losing shifts at work because they've got to stay home with their child, they ought to get help in covering that. So I'm in favor of relief for families that way. I'm in favor of relief that will get people back to work, that will help cover the cost of wages, payroll support for workers so they can get their jobs back, get their wages back, get back on the job. I put forward that, continue to try to work with Democrats that cross the aisle to get it done. Right now, Chuck Schumer needs to make a decision. Let us take up these bills. Let us take up this relief. Democrats are filibustering it, and so it's going nowhere.
Final question. I ask you this a lot because it's such a huge issue in southwest Missouri, but the duck boat bill, your predecessor, Claire McCaskill, had a bill very similar, quite frankly, to your bill. A few differences, but basically the same bill. Her bill never could get a hearing, never seemed to go anywhere, and it looks like your bill is stuck. What's going on?
You know, you're right, Brian. It is stuck. Our bill is a tough bill. It would implement all of the safety recommendations that the National Transportation Safety Board has recommended, and then some. It would go a long way, I firmly believe, towards making these kind of tragedies, like we saw on Table Rock Lake, making them a thing of the past. But right now it is bottled up in committee, not a committee I'm on even. I mean, so I don't even get a vote on it in the committee, and it's bottled up there. And I tell you what, Brian, I think the time has probably come to try and force it out of committee and for me to go to the floor and to try and pass it myself. And if there is not movement in coming days on the bill, that's exactly what I will do. I will go to the floor of the United States Senate and I will seek unanimous consent to have this bill passed. And then we'll have to see who objects to it, because we'll have to see who will come to the floor and try and block it then. That'll be a way to smoke out this opposition.